We've seen some very, very surprising, well, perhaps not surprising to you and I, but surprising stuff surrounding the issue of inflation the from the ABS, and then quite shocking commentary from some of the banks saying rate cut cycle over.
Yes, I have to say, when I saw the latest inflation numbers and also Michelle Bullock's comments on Monday, I think she knew that something was up with the projections. And if you compare the forward projection in her last statement and what we're actually seeing, we're streets apart now. And what I've found very surprising in all of this is how surprised everybody is. They should be listening to us. We've been talking about this for a long time. We knew this was happening.
Well, we did, didn't we? I mean, we looked at the all the other inflation data coming from places like Canada, Britain, New Zealand, America, and you look at that and then it was like, well, inflation's picking up there. Why won't it pick up here? What makes us different? And part of what I think of what led to this sort of degree of complacency around surrounding inflation is the electricity subsidies.
Mm.
They distorted headline inflation lower, and I think that gave people a false sense of security that inflation had been tamed when it hadn't. And I think the thing is that it's not just the electricity subsidies unwinding now that's the problem. That is definitely a contributing factor to the headline inflation rate rising, but we're now seeing the trimmed mean rate of inflation rising as well. So it's problems across the board.
Well, I called this trick or treat because, there was a trick in this from Chalmers earlier on, and of course the States too, when they handed out all this money to people to disguise the true level of inflation before the election. That's
Yeah.
the sort of, and that was a deception, right? That was a trick, and we were saying at the time it's going to come back to bite. And meantime, the true costs of electricity are continuing to rise. But more importantly, and this is a critical point, the breadth of the inflationary pulse that we're seeing now is spreading. A lot of services, of course, as well as goods. And whilst there's been some movement positive in some food categories, the overall trajectory looks as though inflation now is definitely on the up. Unemployment number, of course, which was the other number that shocked earlier on, as Michelle said, the monthly unemployment numbers are wobbly anyway. They go all over the place. And still, she's talking relatively full employment. So we have a couple of contentions here. And then, of course, we have a growth number, which is looking pretty weak as well at the moment because the economic activity is not really very strong, which takes us into that rather uncomfortable land of stagflation.